Hello, everyone out there in TV land. Woo! All right, everyone. What I'm sharing here is Ted Cruz, Senator Ted Cruz. Now, this is the first, I guess it's considered the first anonymous source episode, if you will, or stream of this series, because everything it's always going to be live. So this is the first official live. It's going to be short. I'm still testing how I want to go about doing this. But either way, if we got the John Twinkle, we're all good. So what's happening here is Ketanji Brown Jackson is being confronted about some books that she claims don't exist or aren't in this blah blah blah, aren't in critical race theory books that
Jackson, all of us will
she claims don't exist, but
no one should be discriminated.
Of course they do. Let's check it out.
When you just testified a minute ago that you didn't know if critical race theory was taught in K through 12, I will confess I find that statement a little
she didn't
hard
know.
to
She says
with the public record, because if you look at the Georgetown Day School's curriculum, it is filled and overflowing with critical race theory. That among the books that are either assigned or recommended, they include Critical Race Theory, an introduction.
These are all inappropriate.
They include The End of Policing, an advocacy for abolishing police.
Unbelievable.
They include How to Be an Anti-Racist by Ibram Kendi.
No, Ibram Kendi.
Literally stacks
Ibram Kendi probably wrote, wrote these other books too. Is an extreme, crazy person, ideologue. Just if you didn't know, you could go look him up if you want to. I don't want to say anything further regarding that subject right now.
Two of the ones that were most stunning, they include a book called Anti-Racist Baby by Ibram Kendi. And
same person.
There are portions of this book that I find
bringing out the big
really
thing.
Quite remarkable. One
EBRAMKENDI
are taught to be racist or anti-racist. There is no neutrality. Another portion of the book
So babies are racist.
They recommend to babies
and the big
confess
white baby was big and fat.
when being racist.
Confess when being
racist.
racist.
This is a book that is taught at Georgetown Day School to students in pre-K through second grade, so 4 through 7 years old.
4 through 7 years old, they're telling kids to admit when you're being a racist, right? Well, they're showing a baby just trying to learn how to walk. Make sure you confess when being racist. No, that's number 7, you little shit.
Do you agree with this book that is being taught with kids that babies are racist?
Senator.
That's the sound of stupidity, just so you know.
I do not believe that any child should be made to feel as though they are racist or though they are not valued or though they are less than, that they are victims, that they are oppressors. I don't believe
she used the word oppressors.
But what I will
shocking,
say
actually,
is that when you asked me whether or not this was taught in schools, critical race theory, my understanding is that critical race theory as an academic theory is taught in law schools. And to the extent that you were asking the question, I understood you to be addressing public schools. Georgetown Day School, just like the religious school that Justice Barrett was on the board of, is a private school.
Okay, so you agree critical race theory is taught at Georgetown Day School?
I don't know, because the board is not, the board does not control the curriculum. The board does not focus on that. That's not what we do as board members. So I'm actually not sure.
Doesn't know.
And I'll note that the board is chaired by Professor Fairfax, your college roommate who introduced you yesterday. So the two of you serve on the board together. Another book that is on the summer reading for 3rd through 5th grade is a book called Stamped for Kids, again by Ibram Kendi.
Another Ibram
I read
Kendi
the entirety
book.
of the book, and I will say it is an astonishing book. On page 33, it asks the question, can we send white people back to Europe? That's on 33. That's what's being given to 8 and 9 years old.
Page 33, ironic number. If you know, then you know. Let's go back and just hear that again real quick. This is this motherfucker's name right here. Ibram X, of course. Kendi. I'm sure that X is fake. I'm sure the whole name's fake.
33, it asks the question, can we send white people back to Europe? That's
now I do not have the context of what that is saying. But knowing the person who wrote this book, it's probably not good. You know what? I can't say that it is or isn't because I haven't read it. And I am going to be fair. This is an anonymous source. An anonymous source deals in only reality. So reality is I don't know because I have not read that book. But I'm making an assumption. And this is an opinion series.
On 33, that's what's being given to 8 and 9 years old. It also, on page 115, says the idea that we should pretend not to see racism is connected to the idea that we should pretend not to see color. It's called color blindness. Skipping ahead, here's what's wrong with this. It's ridiculous. Skin color is something we all absolutely see. Skipping ahead, so to pretend not to see color is pretty convenient if you don't actually want to stamp out racism in the first place. What this book argues for is the exact opposite of what Dr. King spoke about on the floor of the Lincoln Memorial.
Now, let's remember that Dr. King was pretty much a radical socialist. Just throwing it out there.
And are you comfortable with these ideas being taught to children as young as 4 in respect to the first book, as young as 8 and 9 in respect to the second book?
Senator, I have not reviewed any of those books, any of those ideas. They don't come up in my work as a judge, which I'm respectfully here to address.
That's 3 magical sprinkles for this idiot.
Which is evidenced from my near decade on the bench
Okay, good.
I am-
Then let's go back to your work as a judge.
Okay, now the next one is where we are going to become furious. Oh, another Ted Cruz thing just started playing by accident. Here now, this is Mr. Cory Booker. Should I do? Is there a difference between women and men, or which is President Kelly Robinson of HRC? It's a Riley Gaines thing, women's sports. You know what? Nah, let's keep doing Ketanji Brown Jackson, because she says that well, Ted Cruz confronts her about each and every is what the word is. As what the words are, child fornication case that she presided over, and let's see what kind of sentences that she gave out. So I think that's what I want to check out right now. Don't you think that sounds a little bit interesting? Because there's some shady stuff going on with this one,
which is the criminal law cases you had as a district judge, and in particular,
let's get into that
involving child pornography.
I know this is old news, but a lot of people have not seen this or don't even know about it. And that's what I'm here for.
Have suggested that the criticism
what I want to do is get this stuff out there, no matter how old it is.
That it's only some specific examples. So I'm going to give you an opportunity.
Here we go.
To discuss each and every case you've had. Because looking at your cases, and I've now examined all of the child porn cases you've had as a federal district judge, there is a very consistent pattern. So let's start, and by the way, I'm excluding...
And that's probably not a good thing.
So Senator Durbin and Senator Coons focused on the Nickerson case, the Fife case, the Nguyen case, and the Hilly case. I'm excluding those because those are not child porn cases. Those are actual sexual assault of a child, which is markedly different. And I will concede when you're dealing with sexual assault, you have been willing to impose stricter penalties. So let's focus on actual.
So he's being honest. When he says something like that, you know he's in honest mode right now.
It's right that
every politician can get into lying mode very easily.
Quite powerfully. Now, your justification is that you're following the statute. And as you know, 18 U.S.C. Section 3553, the factors that as a district judge you had to consider in sentencing. And let's start with the Hess case, United States versus Hess. Now, in that case, a man sent 6 pictures of a prepubescent girl that he claimed was his daughter to an undercover law enforcement officer. Officers found over 600 images of child pornography, including images of sexual acts being performed on prepubescent children. The defendant pled guilty, and I believe in all of these cases the defendant pled guilty. So there's no question about guilt. They came in and pled guilty.
And that tells you the mind of those kinds of people.
The charge carried
that tells you the mind of them, that they're not even going in there with, I'm going to do, I'm going to go in and go for not guilty, look for a plea deal. No, well, actually, maybe they did get a plea deal, and I said that wrong. I'm sorry. But, they're proud of the stuff that they do. Proud, yeah, I said proud. They're proud of the stuff that they do. They're disgusting.
A mandatory minimum sentence of 5 years and a mandatory maximum sentence of 20 years. The sentencing guidelines recommended 151 to 188 months sentence.
And they never know. You never know when you got a guy, when you find his hard drive full of shit. And you may not find him in the videos, but you never know which one of those guys are guys that are in the videos, and you just don't have that evidence because it's more frequent than you would think. A lot of these guys that got picked up on just CP cases are I don't want to call them actors, but are the people in the videos themselves. Of course, they hide their identity, but some of them get caught by tattoos, birthmarks, little things on, just little tiny differences in the look of their hands, even little tiny things that get these people caught in those cases. Just a little background.
Plea deal agreed to argue for 60 months, but didn't agree that would be the sentence, simply that they would advocate it. And you, in turn, sentenced Hess to 60 months. So, under the terms of the statute, why did you choose
mandatory
to sentence
minimum
Hess to the absolute lowest possible sentence you were allowed to sentence under law?
Thank you, Senator. I have
Just look at her hunch.
throughout
She's
this hearing about these cases. I've said what I'm going to say, which is I've taken every case seriously. These are very horrible
I'm asking you specifically
crimes,
about the Hess
and
case.
I've taken every case seriously.
So you're not going to answer that?
These are very horrible crimes, as was that one. And as a mother,
cases should get
having to look at these pictures, having
minimum
to follow
40 years.
Congress's directive, having to listen to recommendations
Depending on
like
age.
the government in that case.
Younger, the
which
longer.
Argued for 60 months. I imposed the
Maybe
sentence
not.
that I believed was the sentence that was required by law.
So I believe you. And
The
I've
mandatory
actually
minimum
read
is what's
your sentencing hearing in each one of these cases for which we have transcripts, and there are several of which we don't have transcripts. So in each of these cases, you read from the same script. So in each of these cases, you say that the distribution of child pornography is an extremely serious federal crime.
So she's got a
You
script
point out
for
the
these
crime
kinds of
involves
crimes
people
for
who
when
are
she's
taking
talking to
pictures
the.
and videos of
the-
real children while the
Wow.
children are being sexually abused.
So fake.
In Hess, you pointed out that he had hundreds of images of children in sexually compromised position. Some of them engaged in sadomasochistic acts. All of this I'm reading from you on the bench. And most importantly, the children in these pictures are not knowing and willing participants in the degrading conduct that was being depicted. They were being forced by someone off screen to commit unspeakable acts of sexual violence for the pleasure of the people filming them and for the gratification of people everywhere. And what concerns me is that many of those people have absolutely no shred of empathy for what that conduct does for the children who were being abused in this way. And you read this script in every one of these cases. So you talk about that these are terrible, terrible crimes.
As they are.
But you also, and in Hess, you said, I have to say that what I found particularly disturbing about your offense was that, quote, you apparently concocted a story about having photographed your own daughter, who you purportedly were willing to take pictures of to trade with other people. I know from your
Don't
comments
doubt it
and
for
from
a
those
second.
who know you that you are unlikely to ever harm a child, which I find remarkable that you've got a child predator in your court who says, I'm unlikely to harm a child. And you say, well, you told me that, so clearly you're unlikely. But you say,
Wow. That is weird. I mean, that is just fake. If you guys don't know, definitely go on Rumble and follow Predator Poachers on YouTube. Of course, they suppress stuff like that. But Alex Rosen, who goes by the name Gordon Flowers, he is one of the best interrogators of child predators. Okay. He started off, like being jokey and saying stupid jokes and stuff, but now he is a master interrogator. The CIA and the FBI, which should be dismantled, but let's say in their good days, he would have been a top guy with his skills. He gets them to admit everything. Now, these guys, I watch a lot of those guys. So on YouTube, you could find them at PP Southeast Texas and NVCAP. You can find their videos there, but most of the videos are on Rumble under the name Predator Poachers. Please go watch them. They literally, I think their slogan is we travel the farthest to catch the sickest, and they do. They are all over. They're in Canada. They're in every state. They got people arrested and charged in almost every state. Amazing shit. But let's get back to these
but in the context
lenient
of the crime,
sentences.
You represented that you would. That in and of itself is astonishing. So you talk about it as astonishing. You nonetheless sentenced him to the very lowest possible sentence allowed under law. And what's
Astonishing, but
is in these
you're
cases,
right. You can get out of here.
You sentenced the defendant to the absolute lowest sentence under law. Let's look at another case. Let's look at United States versus Chazen.
All right, which
Now,
one is
Chazen
that? Is that one on the screen? Yes,
Nasty case.
it is for me. No,
In
it's
Chazen, the defendant was
not.
accused, accessed a Dropbox that contained 35 videos and 13 partially downloaded files of prepubescent minor females engaging in sexually explicit conduct. At least 3 of the instances of prepubescent female children were engaged in sexual activity with adult men.
Wow.
The images included the sexual abuse of children, including those as young as toddlers. And several of these cases that you had involved the sexual abuse of toddlers, which is truly horrifying. In this instance, Chazen pleaded guilty. The guidelines recommended a sentence of 78 to 97 months. The prosecution argued that should be what the sentence was. And you sentenced Chazen to just 28 months. Why did you sentence someone who had child pornography of toddlers being sexually abused to 28 months, 64% below what the prosecutors asked for?
Here it comes. Here comes some bullshit. Magical bullshit twinkle.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you, Senator. Let me check my notes.
You've picked out, I don't know, 7, 8 cases. I've sentenced more than 100 people.
But not
okay, so that's almost
10%. In every case, Senator, I look at the evidence. I look at the recommendations of not.
And by the way,
government,
what she just said was basically that I've hardly done this job. I'm hardly a judge. I've only done 100 cases. That's not a lot. Some judges do 100 cases by Wednesday. You understand? So look at the face of this liar right now as you're just looking. Just look at her. Just look at her. She's full of shit. She's probably got an earpiece in. She obviously, because she got the hair, she could hide it. This woman is disgusting. She's making excuses for child predators and people who record with disgusting shit in their hard drives.
My duty as a judge.
Let me just go back.
Senator, I look at the evidence. I look at the recommendations of not just the government, because my duty as a judge is to consider all of the arguments that are made in a case. I look at the evidence. I talk to the defendants about the harms that they have.
You also coddled them.
In. Many of these defendants are people who.
Okay, Judge, with respect, you're not answering my question. You're right. You talked to them about the harms. Let me read you again from what you said at the bench.
Twinkle is always, that's the bullshit twinkle.
With Mr. Chazen. You said, among the defendants nationwide who received a below-guideline sentence on the basis of a downward variance as opposed to a departure, the average sentences ranged from 84 to 92 months. So that's what you lay out as the average. Our Democratic colleagues say, well, other federal judges sentenced below the guidelines. That is true. A number of federal judges do.
So that means
Democratic
you have
colleagues
to?
have not pointed to a single federal judge in the country who 100% of the time sentences
to lower
child porn defendants to markedly below what the prosecution has recommended, unless you have a mandatory minimum and no ability to do so. In this case, you say comparable defendants are sentenced to 84 to 92 months. The sentencing guidelines by statute require you to have similarly situated defendants sentenced to similar sentences.
Crazy.
You don't sentence Chazen to 84 to 92 months. You sentenced him to 28 months.
28.
Senator, I've said what I'm going
It's
to
like
say
a quarter.
about these cases. No one
quarter
case
of what
can stand in for a judge's entire record.
And this person is on the Supreme Court now because
if you're not going to explain it,
the color of her
please let her
skin.
respond.
No, not if she's not going to answer my
Well, if
question.
you're just going to give a speech,
Now, see how they
You are not taking my
filibuster.
time. If you
Now
want
they
to filibuster.
filibuster. Look, he just used the word filibuster right there. They do this. They interrupt. They don't want you to hear what's going on. They don't want him to stay on track. But too bad he's got the thing right behind him. He's going by the board behind him, so can't stop him there. They're trying to. They want to get. Sometimes they want to get him mad enough where they get up and walk away and just say, you know what, fuck yeah, I'm out of here. But never walk away.
You're welcome to do so, but do it
I
on your
would
own
at least
time.
give you an opportunity to speak, and you should give her an opportunity to respond.
If she wants to answer the question, I asked her
She's
why
not.
Please
she
allow
sentenced-
her to answer the
I
question.
asked her why she sentenced
She's not.
Chazen to 28 months when comparable defendants, in
So
her
let's hear
own
the
words,
answer.
were sentenced to substantially higher, and she said she's not going to answer. Did you? I mean, I would welcome your answer, please.
Senator, I didn't say I'm not going to answer.
Okay, well,
I
then
said
please
my
tell us
answer.
in this case, Chazen, why did you sentence him to just 28 months?
Senator, you're looking at the record. I don't have the record here. What I will say is that in every case, I looked at the recommendations of not only the government, but also the probation office, the defendant, the record, the evidence. I took into account the seriousness of the offense.
No, you
By
didn't.
the way, you know, one of the striking things in
See how he talks right when I'm talking. It was we both call the bullshit at the same time.
And the
I like
prosecutor
that.
says,
I like that.
I understand from my experience before Your Honor, Your Honor's objection, policy objections to the 2G2
Wayne Brady
sentencing guidelines. And he goes on to say, however, in this case in particular, the 4-point specific offense characteristic is justified because it contains sadomasochistic images of infants and toddlers.
Wow.
I'm trying to understand how
I know it's disgusting, but I'm gonna rewind that.
And he goes on to say, however, in this case in particular, the 4-point specific offense characteristic is justified because it contains sadomasochistic images of infants and toddlers. I'm trying to understand how you see someone that possesses images of infants and toddlers being sexually violated and you sentence them to 64% below what the prosecutor's asking for.
Unbelievable.
You don't provide a justification.
She won't answer anything.
You
won't answer anything.
The guidelines are too high. You don't provide a justification as required by statute. So I'm asking you to take the opportunity to explain to this committee and the American people why in 100% of the cases, you have people with vile crimes, and you have language saying they're vile crimes.
She even says
But then
it.
you sentence them to very, very low sentences. And why do you consistently 100% of the time choose to do that?
It's a good question.
Senator, no one case can stand in for a judge's entire sentencing record. I've sentenced more than 100 people.
Bullshit,
you have
Twinkle.
8 or 9 cases in that chart.
Okay, Judge, you said that
because
before.
those are the CP
cases
cases that she did.
To the judge, there's no point
Idiots.
in responding. He's going to.
Thank you.
Look, I appreciate the chairman trying to filibuster, and if you don't like your witnesses' answers, you're welcome to provide your own. She is declining to answer the question, and Chairman Durbin, if you want to join her on the bench, you can.
He's got questions.
But Chairman Durbin,
I'm sure for him too.
Chairman Durbin, I'm not interrupting your questioning.
I'm asking you to give her a chance to answer.
But she's consistently said she's not going to answer. I want to clarify for the record, by the way, the case I was discussing was Cooper and not Chazen. But Chazen is...
Well, Cooper got mandatory minimum. Downs, mandatory minimum.
I pulled the wrong tab.
Hawkins under there,
Chazen
3
is
months.
equally horrifying. And you say in Chazen, this is something Senator Graham asked you. So the guidelines lay out different enhancements. And you say repeatedly, and this is true in all your cases, you say you disagree with the guidelines. You think they're wrong. And the 2 guidelines you disagree with is, one, there's an enhancement for use of a computer, and you say the world has changed, and now all of these are on a computer. And I understand that. I don't agree with you, but I understand
So
that.
what? Keep that charge.
Understandable thing to say. But the second thing you say over and over again is there's an enhancement for the number of images. And you say repeatedly, for example, in Chazen, you say, whatever the state of the law and technology at the time of the guidelines were first adapted, neither the use of the computer nor the number of images are especially aggravating factors today. Now, I find that bizarre.
What?
And you say it in every case. You say the number of images, it's not an aggravating factor, it doesn't matter, and you won't apply the enhancement. Do you really believe
And that's part of her
that a
script.
predator that has hundreds or thousands of images of hundreds or thousands of children being sexually violated has not committed an offense that is more serious than someone that has a single picture of a single child? A single picture of a single child is horrifying. But hundreds of children that have been violated, do you really believe that is not a more serious offense?
Senator, I did not have any cases involving hundreds of thousands of pictures.
No, I said hundreds or thousands. You had cases involving hundreds and you had cases involving thousands. You're right, you didn't have hundreds of thousands.
This is a Supreme
And
Court
I
judge.
also applied an enhancement, just not to the degree of the guidelines.
You're
So I-
right. It's a 5-point enhancement under the guidelines. You provide 2.
Yes, so
Wow.
not 0,
Okay,
not
you're right,
not the
but-
suggestion
But,
that
but
I did.
are you suggesting the number of images doesn't matter? Because you say it in court over and over again that the number of images doesn't reflect that it's a more serious crime. Do you really believe that?
Senator, as I said to Senator Graham, the court is taking into account a number of circumstances. The commission has done a report about the operation of the guidelines, which enhancements actually reflect different levels of culpability with
So
respect to
let me ask you this, Judge. You've said the purpose of sentencing is to distinguish between crimes that are not as serious from truly egregious crimes. Is that right?
No, Senator.
So what is the
Yes,
purpose of
it
sentencing
is.
if it's not to distinguish from less serious crimes from truly egregious crimes?
It is to assign proportional punishment. It is to do justice in cases where you have defendants who are convicted of the same conduct, but have differing levels of culpability.
Circumstances,
Well, I will point
whatever.
out
Culpability.
that you
Okay.
have a pattern. It doesn't matter how egregious the case is. Senator Hawley talked about the Hawkins case where you had an 18-year-old with pictures of boys as young as 8 being sexually assaulted and raped, and you sentenced him to just 3 months in jail.
Oh my God.
And I will point out the
Come
Stewart
on.
case, the last one on this list.
This
because we're
woman's sitting
running out
there
of
with a
time.
smile on her
The
face,
Stewart case,
not giving a shit. You heard that? Let's hear that again. Did you hear this? Now this is an 18-year-old. This is someone who should have been given a sentence that would have given him enough time to grow up and realize, if I do something like this again, it's over for me. Maybe 10, because he's 18. But if you give an 18-year-old 3 months for what we're about to listen to, they are going to keep growing on their fantasy and eventually kill someone, a child.
Culpability.
Well, I will point out that you have a pattern. It doesn't matter how egregious the case is. Senator Hawley talked about the Hawkins case where you had an 18-year-old with pictures of boys as young as 8 being sexually assaulted and raped, and you sentenced him to just 3 months in jail.
Unbelievable.
And I will point out the Stewart case, the last
If he
one on
likes
this
something
list, because
that
we're running out of
vile,
time.
he's acting on
The
it if he
Stewart
can.
case, you describe that he had over 6,700 images and videos. So that's a lot. 6,700. That's a lot of kids
Time
being
expired,
sexually
Senator.
assaulted. You have taken over a minute of my time, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah.
So
You've been given extra time. You usually ask for it. You're given it.
okay.
Shut up.
I know you want to interrupt. I know you don't
I
like
just
this
want you
line
to
of
play by
question.
the rules.
I know you like to interrupt.
They don't
but
play
you
by
like to
the
consume
rules.
A substantial question of
Get
my
the fuck
time of
outta
my
here.
questioning, and I'm going to ask my questions, and you can, if you
Senator-
want to testify, you're welcome to.
Yeah, go sit in the chair
play
and
by the
take the
same rules
questions
as
in,
then.
the
the,
Senator.
in the Stewart case,
Yeah, not for you though, asshole.
you said from the bench,
Let's give him a twinkle.
thus, although this is not necessarily an atypical case, your child pornography possession crime was egregious in
Egregious.
the court's view. Okay, so this is a bad one. If you're actually sentencing defendants, you said this was egregious. What did you sentence Stewart for? The guidelines said 97, 121 months.
Huh.
Prosecutor said 97 months. You said it's egregious. 6,700 images. You come in with 57
Time
months.
has expired.
Why
Senator,
Wow.
did you
minutes
sentence him
over
to
the
just
allotted.
57 months in the Stewart case? Do you want to address that? 'Cause you're
Someone
claiming
shut his
cherry
mic
picking.
off.
In fact, you're welcome to explain
That's
any of
the
these
chairman.
cases, but let's take the Stewart case.
Senator
Why
Coons,
did you sentence him for half the amount?
you're not recognized, Senator. Senator Coons,
You don't want her to answer that question?
you wouldn't allow her any.
Mr. Chairman, she may answer the question. I've asked her why she sentenced Stewart.
You've
an
gone over the
egregious-
time, Senater, by 2 minutes.
Why
and
she's
a half.
because you've interrupted me for 2 minutes, Mr. Chairman. Will you allow her to answer the question, or do you not want the American people to hear why, with someone
No.
she described as an
Well, there
egregious
comes a point, Senator, where you get a little bit.
Chairman Durbin, will you allow her to answer the question?
No, he does not want her to answer the question because she doesn't have an answer to the question. He knows that. And when it's his turn or his side's turn to talk, they don't ask her any questions. They kiss her ass and then they say shit about Trump. That's what they do. This is what you're supposed to do when you're appointing a Supreme Court judge, no matter who they are. You should be bringing things up like this and wondering what's going on. Why is this the case for a Supreme Court judge? Rulers, they make the rule of they don't make the rule of law, but they are the rule of law, basically.
You won't allow her to answer.
I will happily allow her to. The question is,
Senator
why
Cruz, you may
did you
proceed.
sentence Stewart, an egregious child pornography possessor, to half of the amount
Please, Senator.
requested by the prosecutor?
Please, Senator.
Will you allow her to answer the question, Chairman Durbin?
Senator Coons.
Why are you not allowing her to answer the question? There's not another senator here that you've not allowed her to answer the question. I'm not asking another question, but allow her to answer the question, Chairman Durbin.
Allow it.
Thank you, Chairman Durbin.
Why do you not want the American people to know what happened in the Stewart case or any of these cases? Chairman Durbin, I've never seen the chairman refuse to allow a witness to answer a question. You can bang it as loud as you want.
Well, I can just tell you, at some point you
banging a gavel.
Okay, well,
you bang the gavel. Listen.
The chairman refused to allow a witness to answer a question. You can bang it as loud as you want.
Well, I can just tell you, at some point you have to follow the rules.
Okay, will you let her answer the question? You've been interrupting, and by the way, with Senator Graham, it went 10 minutes over.
Ooh.
You've taken a big chunk of the time. Will you allow her to answer the question?
You've given her.
Why are you afraid of her? She's welcome to answer it right now. Will you let her?
Senator Coons.
Will you let? So no, you don't want her to answer the question?
Senator Coons.
Will you let her answer the question?
And,
Chairman Durbin.
That's how it's going to end. Yeah, that's how that ends. But hey, good on Ted Cruz. I think he did a great fucking job there. Of course they did. Induct her into the Hall of Fame. Now they put her into the Supreme Court. Now she's one of them who, she just goes with the flock, with the little sheep, and the other ones. Thank God they have the majority. They do the right thing. They do what they're supposed to do. They do their job. So let's give them a round of applause. Especially Justice Clarence Thomas. So anyway, yeah. That was Ted Cruz smashing around that dirty, sloppy bitch. Ketanji Brown Jackson. Thank you for watching, everyone. Or anyone. Have a good night. And we're out of here.